Welcome to another edition of Liquid Health News, and I'm your host, Jefferson Nunn. And this broadcast is sponsored by Solve.care and the Biotoxin Foundation. And joining me today is Sven with Freedom from Mold Foundation. Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. We're not a foundation yet. We're just a .com. We're soon to be a .com.
Okay, .com, freedomfrommold.com. Well, before we get into the news, why don't you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I've been a lifelong publisher, journalist, mostly dealing in the area of holistic health, natural health, integrated medicine, some spirituality, yoga, meditation, that sort of thing thrown in. So I've interviewed dozens, hundreds probably, of experts in these areas. So in 2015, I was stunned to find out that I was being toxed by mold. And I felt like a real idiot because I should know all this stuff. I should know better. I should have figured out why my yoga and smoothies in the morning wasn't helping my overall health. But I wound up in 2015 having a heart attack from mold. And the emergency room doctor refused to believe that mold could cause heart attacks. So I left and went to Toledo, and I stayed in a naturopathic clinic for a month. Learned all about mold, way more about mold than I ever wanted to. And so finally, after 6 years, I feel the time is ready for me to start sharing the things that have helped me survive now for 6 years. So I give lots of credit to you and the foundation for all the work you're doing, the Liquid Health News, getting the word out, getting people convinced. My website is going to be for those people who know that they've been toxed. They know that it's mold, and they're looking for some tools to help them stay healthy. So that's what we're going to talk about: the products, the services, and the professionals that are out there now. They weren't there 6 years ago, believe me, that will help you thrive or survive and thrive. It's all about staying vertical and above ground in my book.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think this is about the time to do this. There was an article published by Scientific American. The title is Deadly Fungi, otherwise known as mold, are the newest emerging microbe threat all over the world. These pathogens already kill 1.6 million people every year, and we have few defenses, I would argue no defenses against them. So what do you think about that headline and subheadline by Maren McKinnon?
Well, for me, it's finally, first of all, my first reaction is finally some people are recognizing what's going on. The question I have as a endlessly curious person is, what's the relationship between fungi and mold? Maybe you know the answer to this. Are they the same thing? Are they related? Does one feed the other? Do you know how that works?
They're the same. Fungus is mold. They're the same.
Okay. Because I've been reading about the situation in India with they call it black fungus or
black
fungi.
Mold.
And it's actually black mold that develops inside people's bodies. It's hideous, horrific. And it seems like the mold poisoning has to get to that point before the medical establishment will take a look at it. That it's actually
how it got to that point? Oh, let me tell you how it got to that point. It was published in the New York Times, and it was referenced again in the Scientific American. Let me tell you the exact sequence of steps. You'll be shocked, you'll be horrified, you'll be amazed. But most of all, I think it's just going to be just an urgent wake-up call to all of us that we have to do a left turn here pretty soon. Now, India they call it the diabetic capital of the world. And they call it that because, well, they love their sugar. Just about everything has sugar in it, more than stuff here in America. So long story short, the blood sugar levels of most Indians there are already high. And then on top of that, the steroids they give you, because one of the ways, remember when Donald Trump got sick with COVID, what they give him? Steroid. That's why he acted up like a hopped up jock for about 3 days. If you remember, I'm fine. Yeah, we can tell. I'm really fine. Yeah, we can tell, man. Yeah, you're fine. We get it. So yeah, that's the thing. And so steroids, by the way, one of the unfortunate side effects of steroids is that it increases your blood sugar levels naturally, right? Because you just hit the turbo button on everything. So your body's going to be going, oh, you need sugar? Here you go. Here's another truck full of sugar on top of the truck full of sugar you already had. So now fungus, what did it love?
Sugar.
That's like the number one thing it needs to survive, sugar.
Yeah.
They don't care about nothing but sugar.
Yep.
Now, so it gets into the body and it starts eating anything and everything that has to do with sugar. Now, here's one more correlation. And I know correlation is not causation, but god damn if it's not such a correlation. The pancreas. You know the role of the pancreas in the body. Sugar.
Sugar.
Guess where the fungus really likes to get into?
Yeah.
The pancreas. And that leads to pancreatic cancer. They gave a bunch of mice a mold to give them all pancreatic cancer. They removed the mold and all the mice recovered.
Wow. Wow.
What's that tell you?
Yeah.
That tells you we need to do a lot more homework on sugar and its correlation to mold.
Okay.
You want to survive the next epidemic? Watch your sugar intake. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's if we're lucky. And that's what I mean. They put out these articles and they're like blaming the mold, but they're not looking at the entire life cycle, which is that we're giving mold a fertile feeding ground in our bodies with all of this sugar that we're feeding ourselves. Everything has sugar in it. Everything.
You know, it's fascinating if you look at pictures from the 60s and 70s of pools and the beach, you don't see very many heavy people.
Olive oil.
And you look at
Popeye,
yeah,
olive oil.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what was the model's name?
For olive oil?
No, not for olive oil. For just a model in England. I can't remember her name. Brain fog is already setting in.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Twiggy.
Oh,
Twiggy.
yeah,
Twiggy. So, that was the standard. Everybody was going to be super ultra thin. But we just didn't have the amount of processed food, the amount of sugar in our diet that we do now. A friend of mine is a pharmacist, and he spent a lot of time in Africa. And he said in Nigeria, the diabetes is off the charts. And the reason is because the water's so contaminated, nobody will drink water. Most people can't afford filters. So what do they drink? Coca-Cola. It's supposed to be a good, the Americans drink it and it's supposed to be good for you. And so everybody walks around with diabetes because they're drinking 10 to 15 Cokes a day. So it's a worldwide problem.
Yeah, that's the thing. And diabetes, it's going to lead to potentially an epidemic caused by mold. And if that breaks out worldwide, I mean, that's why, I look at this and I'm almost like, you see what happens with their faces and everything. It's like zombies.
Yeah.
It's just like the zombie movies, except made real. Are you ready for that, man?
Well, it is disheartening, really, to a large degree, to how little Western medicine, American medicine, modern medicine knows what to do with mold, or even believes that mold is a problem. I had the head of integrative medicine center at a hospital question me about mold poisoning after it happened. She says, well, what's the difference? Mold is everywhere. Why are you in a worse situation? and it just takes so much time and effort to explain to people, I lived in a 100-year-old building with a flat roof. It always leaked. I had a landlord that would never fix the grout in the tile in the bathroom. So I had tons of mold behind the walls of the bathroom, the tile in the bathroom. My exposure to mold has been way more than most people. But I think probably 9/10 of the chronic conditions that people suffer from are, I think 9/10 of the people who are suffering from conditions are suffering from mold. Most of them don't understand it, don't believe it, don't have any recognition that mold would be an issue.
Exactly. And it's not just mold, by the way. I mean, you mentioned the water thing in a bit. And by the way, we're going to have a special edition of Liquid Health News where we're going to survey on the air live, I think it's something like 8 or 9 different types of bottled water. And we're going to run a water test on the bottled water. And we're going to just basically dip this thing in along with some tap water for a control, right? Just local plain old tap water. We're going to dip the stick in live on the air. You'll see the results, how contaminated or not contaminated that bottled water is. And it's not that it's much better than tap water. Tap water is now, and just about every American city is contaminated with PFAS. PFAS, that's basically the plastic compound that's like forever chemical in your body. Once you drink it, it's there for the rest of your life. It'll blow up your liver. And then, by the way, that's what gives you all kinds of problems. If your liver doesn't work, you're dead. And there's the other thing called fatty liver disease. So the very sugar you're eating that also blows up your liver, that's also blown up by this PFAS, is why you end up just checking out, because once your liver stops functioning, that's it. You'll end up with a heart attack in no time.
Right.
So, and that's what people don't understand. They're just drinking tap water. They're drinking Coca-Cola.
It's also astonishing how many different things carry poisons in our society today. I mean, not just that we have to worry about what's in the water that we drink or the air that we breathe. I mean, that's bad enough. But the fact that we bring these toxins into our home in the form of air fresheners, they're some of the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Dryer sheets that people put in their dryers.
Well, there is a new dryer sheet. It's put out by this, I forget the name of the company, but it's actually now, environmentally safe and everything else. But I get it. Bounty is definitely not that environmentally safe one.
No.
And what's worse is that, they try to throw it into the landfill, right? People don't realize the landfills that are supposed to protect the water supply below it, that protection long gone, yep, or badly installed or whatever. If you test the water directly below the landfill, it's got the worst stuff in it.
Yeah.
And forever chemicals and everything else. It's just awful. And there have been towns next to landfills where they had an increase in cancer rates, an increase in heart attacks because of the chemicals.
Right. And then you throw in plastics. I mean, you mentioned plastic water bottles, but I've heard that we now consume the average of 1 credit card a week worth of plastic.
Yeah.
Just through everything. Just so many things come in plastic. I mean, it infuriates me to go to a store and see a label that says organic and everything is wrapped in plastic. And I think, well, it's not organic anymore,
Used to be.
If it ever was, yeah. Or
you know what I can't get over is they'll shrink wrap a banana.
Yeah.
It's like,
like
really?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I wanted to, one of the reasons I'm happy to come on your podcast here is I wanted to give people 3 little pieces of advice.
Sure.
That I've learned from dealing with mold. And you got to take these to heart. I mean, I've dealt with losing half of my possessions, losing my I couldn't work, so I basically lost my job. Relationships crumble. Family and friends desert you because they don't think they think you're nuts. And then you throw in mold rage, and you kind of are nuts. You know, that's a whole show I think we could do about mental health and mold. But the things I've learned, the three things would be toxins trump everything. It doesn't matter how many smoothies you drink or how much yoga you do or what supplements you take or what magic pills or anything else. And if you're being toxed, that is going to overcome everything. And you can slow the decline, but you're still declining. So the second point is you've got to get out of whatever environment that you're in that's causing these toxins. I see a lot on the message boards of people saying, oh, I can't afford it. I can't, this or that. You can't afford not to. You got to find a tent on somebody's back porch that you can live in. I mean, you have to get out of the toxic environments, because if you're trying to detox and you're retoxing more every day, you're not going to get anywhere. And so the third thing is, once you're starting on the process, you got to keep your lymph system moving. You have to do things every day to keep moving your lymph, because lymph is the lifeblood of your detox system. I like to say lymph free or die. And if you've never seen a New Hampshire license plate, that pun is going to fall completely flat on you. But lymph free or die is my third piece of advice.
Good stuff there, and encourage anybody to just keep at it. It does get better. I mean, sure, you may never get back to 100%, but it's like I talk to some people, if you could get back to 80%, wouldn't that be worthwhile? And they say yes. And so it's like, well, here's what you got to do. This is the path. And there's another advice I usually like to give out, and it's kind of related to what you're saying, and it's just it's like this Japanese saying, kansen kaizen. I picked it up from the guy that did Simpleology, actually. But kansen kaizen, basically, the premise of it is, if you wake up in the morning and you hit the snooze button, and you always hit that snooze button like 3 times in a row, and you can never get yourself out of bed and that sort of thing, right? Well, the one change you would make that entire day, the one change you would make is to put that alarm clock on the other side of the room. Because now what you're going to do, you're going to walk across the room to hit the snooze button. Oh, you're already out of bed. So that's what it is. It's just making small changes every day. Don't try to make a huge change. I mean, sure, you might end up, like you say, get a tent in somebody's porch, but still, you would have to call the guy. You had to go buy the tent, get ready for living in a tent. I mean, that's already 3-4 days right there. Small changes to do the one big change. Right. And then once you're there, you keep doing small changes every day. And eventually you'll find, you're now 80% better than you were. You look back and, prior year, the year before, it was definitely worse than where you are now.
But it's amazing how much toxins the body will absorb. I told you I spent a month in a naturopathic clinic where we did hot, cold tubs. You jump from 105-degree water to 55-degree water. Boy, that just puts a jump start to your lymph system like nothing else I've ever seen. A lot of ozone therapy, a lot of coffee colonics, like every day a coffee colonic. And stuff was coming out on day 25, even as much as it was on day 1. We're packed with parasites. The liver is clogged. I was a wreck. I mean, I had a heart attack, not from congested arteries, but from congested lymph systems. There was so much lymph piled up in my chest, it was actually putting pressure on my heart. And the emergency room, well, that we're just going to put you under the care of a cardiologist. And I kept saying, I don't need a cardiologist, I need a moldologist, which doesn't exist.
No, so not currently.
I had to leave. I walked out of the emergency room. That was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, even scarier than joining the Navy. It's just amazing the stranglehold on thought that the American medical system has. You know, you've lived in your body for however many years. You know your body better than anybody. You know, listen to doctors, take their advice under consideration, but make your own decision about what procedures or what drugs or anything else that you want to take. You know, these doctors that say, "Oh, I'm going to put you on this drug. You're going to take it for the rest of your life." The hell with that. You know, you can fix anything in your body. You can heal anything. You got to give it the right amount of fresh air, clean water, exercise. Got to get your lymph moving every day. You know, get out of your toxic situations, and that includes your friends and family. There are people that, you know, they're just going to turn their back on you, or they're going to mock you and ridicule you. It's better off if they're not in your life. You know, that's one less toxin in your system.
Exactly. So, mental toxins is the thing.
Absolutely. It's a big thing.
I mean, yeah. I heard this years ago when I was 18, probably the best advice I ever got. And that was, you know, if you want to live a positive life, surround yourself with positive people.
Isn't that the truth?
You know, measure everything they say. If it's net positive, they're good. If they're net negative, toss them.
Yep.
Don't even spend another minute on them, because it's just not gonna be worth it in the long run. And it's true. Yep. You know, the more positivity you surround yourself with, and that includes your doctors. That includes, you know, anybody you call your friends, your coworkers. I've known people, they say, "Oh my God, my coworkers are so bad," and they'll complain for half an hour. And then I'll ask them, "Well, why don't you just change jobs?" "Well, you know, the job market is this, that." Like, well, why don't you do something different? "Well, you know, I can't do anything." So
you can make changes, or you can make excuses. That's about all you got to, you know, to do here.
You're choosing to stay in this toxic environment. Got it.
And it's, you know, again, I praise the work you're doing with the foundation, because so many people just don't get it. Even if they know there's mold in the environment, they just don't put it together between the illnesses and the conditions and the sickness that they have, and the fact that they're in a moldy environment. I mean, a friend of mine worked in a building where they had a flood. They sent some guy down this poor guy, they sent him in the basement with a bottle of bleach. He almost died from the fumes. And now they've still got a moldy place where they work, and she's having health problems. And, you know, I keep trying to put the correlation together, but, you know, people just, and they come to the realization when they come to it. I didn't realize it, you know, until it happened to me. I knew there was mold. I knew, you know, it was supposedly dangerous. I just didn't know how dangerous and how long I could put up with it. I lived in that apartment for 5.5 years before it finally took me down. So,
well, there's a worker, social media person that we brought on for Biotoxin Foundation to try to help our social media efforts. And, you know, he's been listening to the shows and whatnot. And, you know, he says, well, you know, so I was always sniffling and sneezing and everything else when I'm in this room, only in this room. And I couldn't figure it out, but then I listened to your show, and then I start looking through the air conditioning system, and I find all this garbage in it. Yeah. And come to realize I was breathing this garbage.
Right.
You know, people don't always put it together what's going on in their room. You know, they just take the pill. Oh, it must be allergy season or whatever, so I'll take the allergy pill. You know, they'll just medicate themselves while the poisoning is still going on.
Or they go to a doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh, I don't have anything for you," or "Just take this pill or that pill," or something that is completely useless and won't work, and poo-poos the whole idea that mold is a problem.
So, well, those are the highlights for today. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners, Ben?
Well, I think you know, I think the COVID has really ripped the roof off of, ripped the cover off of a lot of the problems in our society. The inequities in the financial situations between people, the absolute ineptitude in some things of our medical society. But I hope that one of the things that happens is a bigger awareness, especially with the situation in India, a bigger awareness of the connection between mold and real illness and real problems. And not just at the, when it gets to necrosis, where the mold is literally eating your sinuses or eating your pancreas, but just an understanding of the toxic load theory. And that once you've been over your toxic load, you're susceptible to all kinds of things. I remember not being able to walk down the laundry aisle at the grocery store. Now, what does that have to do with mold? And it's because my body was so triggered now by any kind of toxin that I have to live a different way. Once you've been toxed, you have to live a different way. You have to reform your life, your daily habits. We've talked about friends and family. You got to change probably the deodorant you're using, the detergent you're using in the bathroom. You've got to reformulate your life, and it's possible. It's tough, but in some ways it's very liberating now. I have so much less stuff that I have to worry about because I lost half of it to mold. My time is more free now, more my own, because I'm not filled up with all of the other activities that I know would put me in a toxic situation. So it actually can be very freeing, and you got to just move forward with change. You can't try to stay stuck in the past. That's the best advice I can give you.
Awesome advice, Ben. I really appreciate you having on the show. You're more than welcome to come back. If you want to find out more, go to freedomfrommold.com.
Well, not yet. We're about to launch in a couple of weeks here.
In a couple of weeks, then. Yep. And maybe when you launch, we'll have you back on our show to talk about your new website. And then in the meantime, Biotoxin Foundation, we're still developing, we're still growing, we're trying to build out everything on our site. We hope to have that done in the next month or so, hopefully. But we're definitely going to be a resource for people to try to get past not just mold, but toxins in the environment, of which there's a lot. So again, thanks for being on our show. This is another episode of Liquid Health